Real True Education, not fake news. It's the 28th of March, and my black marker ran out of ink. I just don't have one here, so I'm using a biro. It's 27A11, and it's on COVID-19 and the next move. Now, the position with COVID-19 is government has taken a policy on it all over the world, and there's no doubt that it is a dangerous disease. Whether statistically it is as dangerous as other diseases, I don't know. What I can say is that people are dying from cancer and heart disease and other ailments, just as they always did. And the lockdown is going to continue for another while, and there will be huge economic consequences for it and social consequences. And I know very well from the mind of my opponents, I'm a conservative, that they're not going to let a good crisis be wasted. And already in the left-wing publication, the journal.ie, which has a good lot of readership, and which is in what we call the ascendancy, they're the ones that have the government on their side. You see an article, we failed to prepare for pandemics. We cannot do the same with climate change. So we failed to prepare. Now, if you think of it, about we failed to prepare, we have lived for hundreds of years without preparing for pandemics. There is a certain preparation in the Department of Health and in government departments worldwide. So it's not true to say we had no preparation, but we've also failed to prepare for asteroids hitting the Earth, for Yellowstone National Park to blow up, and many other things. And the question is, how much preparation do you put in for something which may never come? So we haven't actually failed to prepare. We might have been a bit slow off the mark, but there has been huge effort put into the COVID thing, and it's a matter of debate whether it's worthwhile, but it's not true to say that we failed to prepare and we failed to act on it. We did, and we didn't act on it. To my notion, we acted too much, but that's not the issue here. What's coming down the road now is to use the denial of our rights, the conviction of priests for saying Mass and being fined sums of €500, which has happened to a Catholic priest. And all of this lockdown and all of this denial of our constitutional rights is based on the fact that the Constitution states that laws may be enacted for certain things and for health, and therefore it's difficult to get a court to overturn it because they do make laws. So the extent to which the government can make laws to take away our rights is a very legal question. So this is the narrative that's been pushed and believed by so many people. The first thing is we didn't fail to prepare. In late February, it says here, the United Nations Security Council held a meeting to discuss how the climate crisis is a threat to international security. I always thought national security was always, and international security was always threatened. I mean, it was threatened in 1914, whether the British were right to declare war on Germany at all is another day's work. It certainly was threatened in 1939, and it was threatened by terrorism, and it was threatened by the Islamic State and the blowing up of the Twin Towers. So what they're saying is that it's an international security threat. Nothing new about that. As David Attenborough, that's the fellow on the wildlife program, he's an old fellow now, told the meeting, we will face the collapse of everything that gives us our security. Now that is a total and utter lie. Food production. Why would it? Why would a rise in temperature affect food production? Crops will still grow, grass will still grow, meat will be produced. Access to fresh water. Why? Is the rain going to stop falling? They tried to monetize and make a value on Irish water. They were stopped. Habitable ambient temperature and ocean food chains. We've just come through a very, very cold winter. It's still very cold in Ireland. And much of the rest of civilization will quickly break up. Why would civilization quickly break up? I mean, We're after the government's after showing it can control us to the degree it did for climate change. And suddenly, a slight increase in temperature, which the claim is coming, and may or may not, is going to break up. It's going to break up civilization. After the government showing it can control civilization. Unbelievable lies being told in this article. It's in this context the world is facing up to the vertiginous, big word, why can't they use ordinary words? vertiginous, vertiginous stakes of the climate crisis that the Irish government has published in a revised climate action bill. And you know who's behind all that? Eamon Ryan, the mad fella of the Green Party. I don't see any cheap houses going in his area, Dublin 4. Why? It's only a metre or so above the level of the sea. Oh, why are they still charging full whack for houses? You'd think they'd be giving them away. Like many countries around the world, Ireland is committed to net zero emissions by 2050. Now, you go out on the street and see all the lorries and the cars everywhere you go, and they're all used by diesel and petrol, and they're going to end all that. 51% in the Irish case by 2030. They have done nothing so far, and that's only 9 years away. Is essential to move, and it's an essential move, and only the start. The starting gun for the race. Oisin Coughlin of Friends on the Earth puts it. Now, I confronted him, and he did not deny his organisation was getting 400,000 euros of our taxes every year. So what would you expect him to do? He's hardly going to say there's no crisis if he's living off this. Otherwise, he'd have to go to work in the morning and drive his car and get into work and be stopped by the guards and checked and all this. It's lovely to have your own little organisation funded by the taxpayer. But as the UN Security Council meeting betrays, the stakes are far higher than the framing of the bill than you would think. Well, that's what they say. That's what they say. We have an environmental emergency. Its effects aren't limited to those we often see, to those we often see on documentaries. Who makes the documentaries? It's not me anyway. Or a leaflet of green campaigners, like rising sea levels and emancipated polar bears. The polar bears are thriving. That was a lie. The emancipated polar bears are thriving. And it was a lie to say that they were all dying of the hunger. We are talking about famine, drought and disease, and how the higher incidence will destabilise nations and entire regions. Well, there was famine in Biafra when I was a child. There has always been famine in places like Ethiopia, very rich countries, which are torn by war. And the West has failed to intervene and try and bring some peace and stability there. This threat has been recognised for years. Back to 2014, the US Department of Defense was already describing the environmental change as a threat multiplier set to aggravate existing problems like poverty, political instability and social tensions. Lack of cooperation. They're getting worse. Scientists have now concluded. Which scientists have now concluded? Specially chosen ones. So scientists have now concluded we are in a state of planetary emergency, of overwhelming complexity and severity. The delicate web of life is being forced apart. Oh, where is that happening? Here we are with a government which is in complete control of everything. Complete control, and using the police to enforce it. And yet they say there's going to be a breakdown. There was an Extinction Rebellion protest outside Dáil Éireann last week, and it appears nobody took their name or prosecuted them or anything else. And yet we have a parish priest or a priest down in Mullahoran in Gavin being sent to jail. Does anyone ask that question? Does RTE ask that question? The geopolitical of melting Arctic, a whole new ocean, is being an example of how the wondrous accommodation afforded by a stable past is over. It's not over. The Arctic is still froze as it always was, and the Antarctic is still frozen. The ice you see dropping into the ocean in the Antarctic is known as calving. That's how the ice that builds up in the centre moves out and caves into the sea. It's been happening for millions of years. Folks, I'll leave it like that. International relations need to catch up. Protocols at the UN include better early warning systems, to spot destabilizing environmental shocks, and expanding the mandate of peace operations to deal with them. So it goes on there, you'll get it on the journal.ie today, and this is what's coming. Oh, we controlled climate change. We showed we can control everybody. And they did. Yet we can't control the effects of climate change. That isn't happening. We have the ever increasing, the ESRI, the Irish public body, saying that our electricity prices are going to rise 2.69%, and they're going to impoverize us. And this is all to do with this. When we get the bill for this, they're going to take away our rights, our savings, and everything else. It's a question of whether we vote in the ballot box for the parties that do it, or whether we don't. Maybe just by me highlighting it, I'd help a little to cause people to ask the right questions and realise you are not going to get it. You're not going to get it on RTE or any of those stations. You've got to look elsewhere, and you've got to be prepared to hear it. Folks, I'm limited to time here. We'll see you back. It's the 28th of March. In case it's missed, so give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and we'll let you go. Maybe produce